Donald Trump rallies are always high volume and packed with energetic supporters, but tonight's rally was described as rowdy, angry, and hostile by two people who were there. A New York Times reporter tweeted, "This was as hostile as I've seen people at a Trump rally." And a Republican Florida congressman, a Republican, said this crowd had more extremists, and he said this was not the Republican Party he knew and loved. And here's why.
Fake news, fake news. They are fake.
In Tampa, Florida, Tuesday night at a rally for a Republican candidate for governor of that state, President Trump continued to hammer many of his favorite targets, including the news media. But this time, the crowd took their cue from the president, shouting down CNN correspondent Jim Acosta when he was trying to do a live report about the rally.
You can hear there is a chorus of boos and other chants from this Trump crowd here in Tampa, Florida. They're saying things like CNN sucks, go home, and fake news. Wolf, obviously, all of those things are false. We're staying right here. We're going to do our job and report on this rally to all of our viewers here tonight.
After the rally, President Trump retweeted a video from his son of Trump supporters harassing Acosta, and the Trumps were gloating about it. Watch supporters of President Trump chant CNN sucks during Jim Acosta's live spot at Florida rally. Acosta also tweeted about the rally incident. "I'm very worried that the hostility whipped up by Trump and in some conservative media will result in somebody getting hurt. We should not treat our fellow Americans this way. The press is not the enemy." Burbank Congressman Adam Schiff says Trump was warned about his attacks on the media in a recent meeting with the New York Times editor.
These taunts to the press are likely to induce violence against the press. And the president said he was proud that other leaders were imitating his claims of fake news and the press is the enemy of the people. And it had to be pointed out to the president, yes, these other leaders imitating you, they're all dictators.
While blasting the news media, the Democrats, and L.A. Congresswoman Maxine Waters, one of his favorite targets, President Trump did not make any mention of his former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, whose trial began Tuesday in a federal court in Alexandria, Virginia. Manafort's defense attorney brushed off questions about whether his client might make a deal with the feds.
Any chance that he may decide to flip and cooperate?
No chance.
No chance?
Manafort is the first Trump associate to face trial as a result of the special counsel investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 campaign. But the case against Manafort makes no mention of the election or President Trump, and those issues will not be brought up in the trial. That's because Manafort is charged with bank fraud and tax fraud, not directly connected to the Russian election meddling. In their opening statement, prosecutors said Manafort failed to pay taxes on tens of millions of dollars earned from his lobbying work on behalf of Ukrainian politicians. He allegedly laundered the money through lavish purchases, among them a $21,000 watch and a $15,000 ostrich jacket, as well as millions of dollars in real estate. Manafort is the only American charged by the special counsel who has refused to cooperate with prosecutors. And sources tell CBS News that he's banking on a presidential pardon. Just last month, President Trump said he felt bad about Manafort's plight.
They went back 12 years to get things that he did 12 years ago? You know, Paul Manafort worked for me for a very short period of time.
Congressman Schiff says even though the Republican meddling will not come up at the trial, a possible conviction could be crucial for the investigation.
If he does get that conviction and Manafort is facing substantial amount of time, maybe the rest of his life behind bars, he would have a lot to offer the special counsel, and if he's convicted, he may very well be willing to cooperate.
Now, the Manafort trial is moving at warp speed so far. Just today, on day one, a jury was seated, opening arguments were delivered, and one witness was questioned by prosecutors and defense attorneys. Although the charges have some inherent complexities, the judge says he expects it can be finished in 3 weeks.